this is our group, and my name is Jeff Cox.
My name is Siavash.
And I'm Tyler.
And so we were tasked with the case study around student learning, and as you all know, we didn't have tons of time, so hopefully our discussion afterwards will be just as important as our presentation. So basically, a little bit of an intro is that UBC is committed to offering, or has committed to offering all undergraduate students the opportunity to participate in two what they call enriched educational experiences during the course of their studies. And these opportunities include a first-year small class experience, undergraduate research, international learning, community service learning, and co-op practicum and internship opportunities. So sort of balled up into this is included as a new award program, which sort of is structured to offer students a $2,000 value, or around that value, or maybe more or less, based on a proposal of that student wanting to do a project on campus during their time at UBC. So, I think what we wanted to do and how we structured it was to talk about sort of the pros of this model, the cons of this model, and some solutions we had in terms of seeing how we can maybe adapt and address some of the issues. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over and we'll start talking about the pros.
Well, we believe that this program, the Student Learning Enrichment Program, would have basically three main pros. It would be lots of potential because it allows greater autonomy for students to gain experience in their career or in educational outside of the classroom. The creativity component is crucial because we have just basically 5 major points to cover: the co-op program, international study, first year small class, and undergraduate research. So lots of freedom for the student themselves to choose where they would like to allocate their funds, and it gives them greater control over their own education. And supporting students, I think we can all agree that money for education is always a good thing. And it will help offset the cost of their time here at UBC.
Some of the cons/barriers we came up with in this model is that there's a big potential for abuse. We have to think of ways of monitoring if students are actually using the money for what they're saying they're going to be using it for, and not just taking time off of school or doing something for personal enjoyment that's not going to benefit their education. Who's on the award selection committee? Because you can't have somebody who has a closed mind about what education is, because if you have a science panel for people in the arts and they're you can't take time off to learn how to write because that's not really part of your education. It won't be fulfilling to everybody who will be wanting this award. What qualifies under the emerging education?
Educational enriched experiences.
So what actually classifies as a proper education? This is something that I think is one of the bigger problems, is you have to clearly define what an education is in order to properly target this. Other problems include apathy, how UBC can promote or communicate the program effectively so people know that this opportunity will exist. And student time restraints, so how many credits they're allowed to take before they graduate, or how many years they're allotted to their degree. So these are some of the hurdles we thought of.
Yeah, so in terms of then thinking about solutions, I think some of these are a little harder to address, like apathy. If someone can put a solution for apathy, I'm sure a lot of money, but a diverse approval committee. So as mentioned, you can't have just certain people necessarily just administration, just students, just one faculty. You have to make it diverse and encompass sort of all things that are happening at the university, which is very challenging. A detailed guidelines for what qualifies under EEE. So there's those 5 tenets, but what is it means specifically into those tenets? So if a student proposes something that's kind of out and left wing, but still helps the professional person development, would that still be considered under something beyond those 5 tenets? And last thing on the list is the strong communication campaign. So as mentioned, it's very important to help create. Thank you.
Great, so we'll open it up to questions or comments.
First of all, congratulations. I think it was quite a challenge to read through so much material and absorb some ideas in about a half an hour, so probably to the other groups as well. One of the things I'm interested in is, as you talked about the proposal that you read about, you talked about the idea that students might apply a proposal for how they would spend the award, and that would be maybe reviewed by a committee. I think that's at sort of one end of the spectrum of how the awards could be allocated, so one-to-one kind of review a proposal, make a decision on awards funding. At another end of the spectrum, you might have sort of pre-reviewed opportunities where there was a list of team things, if you did any of these, you could use your word to it. Can you talk about some of the benefits and opportunities within that, and really what way you think would work the best for students? What would be the best and kind of easiest and least administrative way to be able to get money into the head of students to do what they want to be able to do?
Well, I guess I can start to speak of it. So if you have, things that are preset, I guess you could term them when they're already structured. I guess it would be less of an approval because they're already pre-approved, and so it's just in terms of students are finding out how they can apply for things that are pre-approved. The benefits, not a large approval process. People can see where they're going and maybe what they can already get out of it before they start. Maybe some of the negatives would be it's less open, so I think there's benefit into going into something without necessarily knowing exactly what you're going to do. So maybe an open for you to sort of take it in new directions. I think that's a lot of good values that will come out of that as well.
I agree. It will actually encourage students to apply, because instead of having to explain what they're planning on doing with the money, they could easily just say, like, this is a conference I want to go to that will benefit me in education. They won't have to go through how it will benefit them or what the conference will do, so we'll actually encourage them, instead of having to write like an essay proposal like some of the current grants, we'll encourage them to actually go to different conferences. So I think that's a really good benefit of it.
I can just ask a quick follow-up question to that though. So one of the points that was made earlier as a barrier was the possible abuse of that. So how do you balance that? You're giving people the opportunity, students the opportunity to make the decision, I want to go to this conference, it will benefit, it will be enriching to me. How do you balance that with, what I'm going to say I'm going to do this, then I'm going to go down to Portland and spend the weekend not going to the conference and have a great time? So what mechanisms would you build into that to ensure accountability, but without making it too onerous on the student or the university?
Well, I'm actually a high school student, but for the completion of our work experience, part of our graduation transition plan, they make us get either a 30-hour or 90-hour job, and all that it requires to defend against like abuse, they say you need to get a reference letter, a business card, and a photo or something along those lines, or pay stub from your employer, and it's relatively easy to do. All they need to check is either SIN number or name, and a phone call. There's not much, there's no giant forms to fill, and they just call or they email. That's all there is to verify that. For example, I volunteered 30 hours at a film festival or something like that.
I can envision some kind of report to you with a strong introspective part of it. So just sort of what you got out of it, and maybe not even just necessary, but you can have lots of different forms. Be creative with it too, so it's not so onerous. Maybe a presentation, just discussion.
And to target irresponsible spending, you can have them like keep receipts of whatever they use the money for, and that way they keep record of what they're doing. But that was one of the problems we have come up with a solution for, because even with the grant awards that are well established, people often use the money usage, so it's not an easy problem to tackle.
You had mentioned you're a high school student, so I'm going to ask a question directly to you, but if other people want to comment as well, that would be great. So if you were thinking of coming to UBC, you're graduating from high school and looking at different universities, and UBC is one of the places you're considering, and you hear that UBC has this type of opportunity for you, how would you evaluate that list of 5 things that might qualify? How do you as a high school student evaluate that and say, yeah, actually, I would love to be part of these kinds of opportunities, therefore I would choose to go to UBC?
It would basically be very personalized on the individual themselves. For example, I would definitely prefer to go through a co-op sort of system, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I hear rumors that UBC doesn't have a great co-op system for arts, but with such a program as this, especially with the amount of freedom that the actual student has, it would definitely make it more appealing because of the university.
So it would be, you would choose opportunities that you knew existed or that you were familiar with?
Another thing about this that seems really cool is that they give it to you first, and then you go, they give it to you first with just a proposal that you have, and then you get to do it. Most other scholarships, you have to do something first, and then they give you a scholarship. And this seems like an innovative idea. I'm not really sure if it will work great, but so far it seems very good, and I think grade 12 students would be definitely down for this.
We're done with time, so thank you very much. Student Leadership.